In the latest twist in the Jeffrey Epstein saga, new emails have been released by House Democrats in which Epstein wrote about President Donald Trump. In one of the emails from 2019, Epstein told a journalist that Trump knew about the girls, but the context of what Trump may have known isn't clear. In a 2011 email, Epstein told his confidant and former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, that Trump had spent some time with a person identified by House Democrats as a victim of his sex offenses. Trump has denied wrongdoing, and one of the people identified as a person mentioned in the emails, Virginia Giuffre, has denied that Trump was one of the men who assaulted her. Giuffre wrote in a memoir published after her death this year that Trump was a gentleman when she met him at his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. And Maxwell was interviewed by the Justice Department's second-in-command in July. She said that she never saw Trump do anything untoward with anybody. The White House contends that the release of emails related to Donald Trump is part of a smear campaign against the Republican president. Spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt accused Democrats of using the emails, cherry-picking emails, to make the president look bad. And just after the release of those emails, Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee released some 20,000 pages of material that had been obtained from Epstein's estate. Among the documents there were some already publicly available, including pages from a James Patterson book about Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah! And we are back. And we are black. Here on WLTH 1370 AM. That's 92.7 in the FM dial. If you're nasty, the region's choice, the people's voice. It is Friday, November the 14th, 2025. The future is here. The future is now. And the future is not looking so bright for our current president, Donald Trump, and some of his allies after the release of some of these Epstein emails. Wow, there's some smoke in here. Maybe not full on fire, but there's legit smoke here. These freshly released Epstein emails are sometimes they are cryptic. You know, Epstein writes in code a lot, and sometimes he just comes out and says some real blatant stuff. So there's some layers to this. So the House Democrats on Tuesday released emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. They were obtained via a bipartisan House Oversight Committee subpoena in which Jeffrey Epstein claimed that President Donald Trump spent hours, not minutes, but hours at his Palm Beach home with one of the victims and knew about the girls. That's what the email says. Trump knows about the girls. These documents include a 2011 exchange with Ghislaine Maxwell referencing Virginia Giuffre, who has testified under oath that Trump engaged in no misconduct and did not visit Epstein's residence. Republicans, including James Comer, who was the chairman, criticized the release as a partisan effort to create a false narrative, while Democrats are calling for more transparency from the Justice Department amid ongoing reviews of the 23,000 documents. Now, what's hilarious about this is, once again, the gamesmanship of Washington, D.C., of our politics. Now, when Joe Biden was in office, you had all these Republicans, including Kash Patel, who is currently the head of the FBI, Dan Bongino, who works with Kash Patel at the FBI. You had all these people saying, oh my God, all these Democrats are going to be in the Epstein files. And if Trump was in the Epstein files, the Democrats would have released it already. So they were sure, so much of MAGA was just sure, oh my God, they were so sure that Donald Trump wasn't in any of these files that they spent the second half of Joe Biden's presidency basically, you know, spreading every conspiratorial theory possible about who was in those files, primarily Democrats. Now, as soon as Donald Trump gets into office, and Donald Trump actually stoked a lot of that as well by platforming a lot of people like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who made a lot of money, you know, on the podcast circuit and all these other things, writing books about Epstein and how the Democratic Party was hiding Epstein and how the elites, all this an elite pedophile ring. Oh my God. And Bill Clinton and all these other people, Bill Gates, all these supposed billionaires, they somehow convinced themselves in their mind that in spite of the fact that Jeffrey Epstein said that Donald Trump was his best friend for 10 years, that there's countless amount of footage of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein together, and that there's countless pictures of Donald Trump and Epstein together, they have convinced themselves that Donald Trump was just completely innocent, and this was, but, the Epstein files were about protecting Democrats. And now Trump's in office, and he's hired Bongino, and he's hired Kash Patel, and he's platformed all of these people who spent all this time whining and going on and on about the Epstein files. Now it's like, well, we don't really care about the Epstein files. Like, what is this? It's just time to move on, folks. The worse it looks for Donald Trump, the more we need to move on to something else. Oh, we're about to go start a war with Venezuela. That's what it's. Hey, let's go blow up Venezuela. Let's talk about that instead of the Epstein files. Right. And so Mike Johnson even refused to call the House back to allow I forget what her name is, she's new in the Congress, prevent her from being sworn in, because her swearing in would have given the people in the House 218 votes, which is what they needed to release the Epstein files. So now she's finally been sworn in after 50 days of not being sworn in, and she signed the petition, I guess, the discharge petition. And so now it is, the House has voted on it. And so now Donald Trump is scrambling on the restaurant with the mandolin and violins. He's doing his best to try to keep this under wraps. He actually dragged Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, and Lauren Boebert into an emergency meeting in the actual Situation Room. Not Wolf Blitzer's Situation Room, the actual Situation Room, to discuss the House to push the release of the Department of Justice's Epstein files. Now, why would he do that if he has nothing to hide? Why is he mad at Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mason, trying to get them to vote against releasing the files if there's nothing to hide for him? I think we all know the answer to that. Now, if there is some solace for MAGA, it is that there's some stuff in here about the Clintons. I think we all knew that. We knew the Clintons were close with Jeffrey Epstein. We know Ghislaine Maxwell was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. We know that, Jeffrey Epstein actually had a picture of Bill Clinton, a painting of Bill Clinton wearing Monica Lewinsky's dress with the stain on it. And y'all know what type of stain I'm talking about, in his house. We know that Bill Clinton flew on the Lolita Express. We know that in 2020, the day before Bill Clinton was scheduled to speak at the Democratic National Convention, a picture of Bill Clinton getting massaged by one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims was actually released. So this is what MAGA and a lot of the MAGA right is like holding their hat on, like, well, this is primarily Bill Clinton. This is Bill Clinton. He's the real pedophile here. He's the real sicko here, not Donald Trump. Now, about Trump, these emails include messages from Epstein saying that Trump spent hours at his house with one of the girls. And I didn't say women. I said the girls, because that's really who who these were. very young girls, teenage girls. And he also said that Trump knew about the girls. So he made that apparent. Like, Trump knows about the girls. And another thread shows that Epstein and his ex-girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, discussing removing Trump's name from their list of associates. Other emails are showing Epstein talking publicly about Trump or asking journalists how Trump should answer questions about him. So when Trump was having his political rise, he was actually talking to members of the media, particularly Michael Wolff, who is the novelist, who's the writer, I think he's from Vanity Fair, about how they should handle, Donald Trump's political rise. And, it's Michael Wolff actually advised Epstein on how to blackmail Trump. Like, that's true. Like, he's giving Epstein advice on how to blackmail the president of the United States. Or at that point, he would have been the future president of the United States, because this is 2016. And Michael Wolff actually says, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you valuable PR and political currency. So they're actually plotting and strategizing how to blackmail the current president of the United States. Back then, it would have been the future president of the United States. There's some stuff in here to Larry Summers, who was a part of Barack Obama's advisory team, who, again, actual leftists like myself, has spent many years decrying because of the effect that he had on Bill Clinton in the 90s. Deregulating Wall Street, running Brooksley Born, who tried to warn Bill Clinton that deregulating Wall Street and not regulating derivatives was going to destroy the American economy. Larry Summers was that guy, along with Robert Rubin and Sandy Will, who were advising Bill Clinton in the 90s, and which is how we ended up with the crash of 2008. And they also advised Barack Obama. On how to deal with the Wall Street banksters who had just crashed the economy in 2008 once he got in office. And so this is Larry Summers. Epstein says to Larry Summers about Donald Trump, he says, I've met some very bad people. None are as bad as Trump. He doesn't have one decent cell in his body. Good Lord. Good Lord. Good Lord. Damn. When Jeffrey Epstein is saying that you don't have a decent cell in your body, what does that say about you? Good Lord. That's levels of evil I don't even think there's a name for. And he also says to Larry Summers, your world does not understand how dumb he really is. He will blame everyone around him for bad results. So Jeffrey Epstein, after him and Trump had their little breakup, he's really, dishing the tea on the Donald to Michael Wolff, the journalist, author, and Larry Summers, who was an advisor to Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Now, there is some stuff regarding Hillary Clinton in the Epstein emails. Some of his 2016 reference Hillary and Vince Foster. A newly released email starts with the starting line, Nussbaum, White House counsel, Hillary doing naughties with Vince. Now, a very big conspiracy theory on the right for many years has been that the Clintons had Vince Foster murdered. I'm not saying that it happened, but I'm just saying that has been a conspiracy theory since the 90s, because Vince Foster, if I'm not mistaken, killed himself. I believe that's how he died. Let me look up really quick how he died. Vince Foster. Vince Foster, cause of death. Suicide. Supposedly he committed suicide by gunshot July 20th, 1993. So that would have been during Bill Clinton's first year in office in 1993. He was a deputy White House counsel. And supposedly the belief was that he had an affair with Hillary Clinton. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't know if they killed him. But Jeffrey Epstein, who was good friends with Bill and Hillary and Trump, seems to think that Hillary was doing something with Vince Foster. And the Nussbaum is Bernard Nussbaum, who was the White House counsel during Bill Clinton's first term. So these exchanges happened before Trump and Clinton faced off in the election. So in 2016, this international sex trafficker was trying to figure out ways to either blackmail Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. I guess he was looking for what ammunition he had against both of them. Also, what came out in some of these emails is that Bill Clinton actually pressured the media against reporting on Jeffrey Epstein. We actually heard this before. There was a journalist, Amy Robach. Let me see if I have. Yeah, Amy Robach, who actually talked about how she was prevented from reporting on the Epstein files years ago when she was on ABC News. And she was caught on...
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with...
Let me say this is her being caught on secret camera having a discussion about somebody about the Epstein files and the people who were in them, and being kept by some force supposedly kept her from releasing the information and the interviews that she had with the victim of Jeffrey Epstein. So this is Amy Robach from ABC News. She was an anchor, caught on secret video, talking about how she was prevented from reporting on Jeffrey Epstein.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in it because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton. We had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like, every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal. Other women backing it up. Hey, yep. Brad Edwards, the attorney, 3 years ago, saying there will come a day when we will realize Jeffrey Epstein was the most prolific pedophile this country has ever known. And I had it all 3 years ago.
So that's Amy Robach, formerly of ABC News, on secret camera. She was being filmed unknowingly, talking to her coworkers about how she was going to do a story on Jeffrey Epstein. And she had the victim of Jeffrey Epstein, Virginia Giuffre, back then known as Virginia Roberts, before she got married, talking about Epstein, Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, who ended up, I don't know if y'all seen this. This has been a huge scandal in England. Prince Andrew has just recently got stripped of his name. He got kicked out of his house by his brother, King Charles, over this scandal right here. He's now, I forgot what his actual name is now, but he can't go by Prince Andrew anymore. And they kicked him out of his house. And he had to pay, I believe he had to pay Virginia Roberts, now Giuffre, I believe $12 million or something like that. It's pretty incredible. So at least some of what Virginia Giuffre was saying was right. And some of the stuff that's in these emails is sort of backing up what Amy Robach was getting from people like Virginia Giuffre and others. Now, here's a part of the story that nobody in the media is really talking about, and at least in the mainstream media, is that there's been so many reports showing that Jeffrey Epstein was actually an Israeli intelligence officer. So like this just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Mind you, we've given Israel $300 billion. And people keep saying, why do we keep sending billions and billions and billions of dollars to Israel? Why do we keep helping them do this genocide of the Palestinians? Why are we so in love with Israel? Well, we know that they were blackmailing Bill Clinton over Monica Lewinsky back in the 90s. They were literally threatening Bill to release the Lewinsky stuff before it came out from Linda Tripp. We know now Epstein had blackmail material on Donald Trump, the current president. And now we know that he was an Israeli intelligence operative. So much of what Epstein seems to have been doing was running some sort of honeypot trap to catch a lot of the world's most powerful people, not just America, the world's most powerful people, blackmailing them on behest of the Israeli government. And so again, this is where your tax dollars are going, folks. This is where your tax dollars are going. Big shout out to Drop Site, which is a site on the internet that does great investigative journalism. Ryan Grimm, Murtaza Hussein, a lot of these people, these are great journalists. If you get the opportunity to go to Drop Site, DROPSITE, and read a lot of their investigative journalism, they do great work. The Intercept has done a lot of great work in the past too. This is the only place you're going to see actual real journalism in 2025, because you're not going to get it from our media. You're not going to get it from ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, Fox, Newsmax. No, you're not going to get it from the New York Times. You're not going to get it from the Chicago Tribune or the Chicago Sun-Times or the Post Tribune or any other thing. Like, you have to find independent media that will tell the truth on issues like this, where you find out that like Jeffrey Epstein had a Israeli spy staying with him for weeks at a time in his Manhattan mansion, or where you'll find out that Jeffrey Epstein helped Israel sell a surveillance state to the Ivory Coast. So Jeffrey Epstein was literally doing deals for Israel in Africa with African governments. Technically, this guy didn't even have a job, but he was a billionaire, and he knew all of our politicians, and he knew royalty, and he knew all these other people. He also helped Israel build a back channel to Russia amid the Syrian civil war. Why is he helping Israel build back channels with Russia, who is supposed to be our sworn enemy? At least that's what the elites in this country say. Why is he helping them build a dialogue to overthrow Bashar al-Assad before he was eventually ousted in the coup? Jeffrey Epstein also helped broker Israeli security agreements with Mongolia. So he was literally working for the Israeli government. And it is rumored that his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, her father, Robert Maxwell, was also working for the Israeli government back in the 90s before he died mysteriously. So, again, when you look at what goes on politically in this country and who actually has actual real power, and you realize that the way we vote seems to have very little power whatsoever. Like, we can vote and say, I don't want any more wars, but Israel can wave their wand and say, yeah, we want you to attack Iran. We want you to attack, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, whatever. This is why. This is why. They have people like Jeffrey Epstein who literally engage in collecting compromat against our politicians to get them to do what they want. And some of the most richest and most powerful people in the world are a part of this. Bill Gates literally got divorced. His wife left him because of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. This is who was totally behind the rollout of the vaccines here in America. The COVID vaccines. Bill Gates, his companies were the ones making the vaccines. Again, so much of what goes on in this country political is about what's going on behind the scenes. They give you the Democrats and the Republicans and all this other nonsense to distract you. That's fake. This is what's real. All right, folks, that was really heavy. Yes, it was. So how about we lighten it up a little bit and have some happies. Let's have some fun for once. We'll be right back after this. Straight out of the cannon with me, Scott Cannon, on WLTH 1370M. That's 92.7 in the FM dial. The region's choice, the people's voice. Don't go nowhere.